to go hang out in Ebony's office all the time.
Hey, did y'all have a quorum and yesterday because I'm trying to watch it online, but I didn't see it.
Hunt. We call it hunt. You know hunt is?
I know what it is. We had it before.
Mm-hmm. They have eggs out there.
Eggs.
If you go way down there.
We have eggs. What?
Roslyn, hey girl, how you been? Roslyn.
All right. How about you, Jill?
I'm edged because of the legislative session. Arcangino and Magnolia with the low DSP turnout. Can somebody, before we start 8:30, tell me if the DSPs and the rates for the providers and the supports are ever going to pass? Does
Wait a
anybody?
minute, say that again, Jill?
I'm just emotional because of the low turnout with the rates, providers, and the DSPs.
Yeah, but hey, though, Jill, for me, why I'm here is because, you know, that, I want to share something with y'all.
What?
I want to enjoy something with y'all and sharing that.
Well, I'm
So-
ready, Rosalind. You're one of my best friends. What's the news? What's the good news, girl?
Well, put it this way. We started back at Magnolia in a day program.
Oh,
So, you know me, I want to share it with y'all.
Well, you know what? I am so proud of y'all. I mean, honestly, you know, I'm just trying to advocate good for change in the DD Council. But I mean, I wish that they can have good DSPs and the PCAs, a good turnout so the rates can go up.
You know it. Hey, for me, you don't have to worry about nothing. I got your back and everything. You know me, I'm working it.
I know.
You don't have to worry.
I know, Rosalind, but I know what people with IDD are going through because sometimes they can't buy certain stuff because they don't get a lot of revenue, but I just want things to be allocated.
Oh. You don't, not too loud. I'm on the,
Hey, hey.
Oh,
Good morning, everyone. The time is now 8:32 a.m., April 21st, 2022. Calling to order the Developmental Disabilities Council meeting. Just want to say welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time out to be a participant with this particular meeting. I'm going to ask that you please be patient with us because this format is very different from what we are traditionally used to doing. After the public health emergency was lifted, we had to scramble to make sure that we could try to be compliant as possible with the format that we're using. We realize that there will be a lot of hiccups. So I'm going to ask that as council members that you be patient with us, the public as well. Also, if you will, just take some personal notes of some things that you may see that we can probably do some improvement on how we can do these things different. But this time, we're going to go ahead and start with our mission statement and the ground rules. Then behind pulling that up for us.
I can share.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure, thank you. Mission statement. To increase independence, self-determination, productivity, integration, and inclusion for Louisianans with developmental disabilities by engaging in advocacy, capacity building, and systems change.
Just trying to make it easier for you to read, not harder.
No
Sorry
problem.
about that.
And just go a few ground rules, make sure that you keep your cameras on so we can continue to have a forum and that you remain muted until recognized to speak. We're going to do also a public comment. Public comment will be done a little bit later. That way we can try to address it. And for those that are in the office, they'll receive a card that they're ready to be acknowledged for public comment. So at this time, next item up for business is approval of the meeting summary. A draft of the October 21st meeting summary was distributed January meeting. The summary will not be read unless requested by a member. Are there any corrections to the summary? There's no objection. The summary is approved as distributed. All right. Moving forward, next we have the person report. So chairperson report. So as chairperson, I got an opportunity to attend racial equities diversity conference, which was presented by LPH, Louisiana Public Health Institute. It was very informative about diversity. It was also informative about equity in the disability community as well as racial issues. One of the takeaways from it was to make sure that we're very considerate of other cultures, and one person can see something from one perspective and another person can see it from another perspective. So it was very informative. Another thing, as chairperson, I had an opportunity to do, I was invited to the council, to the Capitol to testify on making sure that voting machines are accessible for individuals with disabilities. I was also in partnership invited by Ms. Lillian Dejon, and then the SILK, Statewide Independent Living Council Chairman, Ms. Jamie Dupichan. She was also one that testified about the need for accessibility for those voting machines. And hopefully it did not fall upon deaf ears. The main thing is we just want to make sure that we just stay on the forefront of many people's minds, because sometimes people aren't aware that these are needs in the community because it's not a need particularly to them. But one of the things I did state in my testimony, which was only 3 minutes, was at some point in time, you keep living, all of us are going to fall into some form of disability. So don't dismiss what may not be a concern to you now, because if you keep living, it probably will be later. So does anybody have any questions about the chairperson's report? Any questions from any council members? Hearing none and not seeing none. Thank you very much. So we're moving forward. Now we're up to executive committee recommendations.
There was only one motion made by the executive committee.
Okay.
Do you want for me to display it?
Yes, please. So on yesterday, the executive committee convened, and I want to say thank you for those members of the executive committee that had an opportunity to meet. We discussed the executive director's evaluation, and the motion was, and the evaluation was our executive director, Ms. Amy DeVille, met our requirements with a satisfactory report with those, for her first year as executive director of the Developmental Disabilities Council. The recommendation by the executive committee to the council was a $4,000 pay raise for the executive director. With that being said, do we have any questions from any council members of what the executive committee has requested, recommended to the council? Okay. Not seeing any hands raised and no questions. At this point, I'm willing to entertain a motion of what the executive committee has presented to the executive, to the council.
So you don't need a motion, right? We just have to vote.
Yeah, you just
Okay.
need approval.
Thank you very much. So I'm just asking for an approval.
Any
I'll
objection?
make a motion to approve the executive committee's recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
In a second.
You don't need that.
Well, actually, yeah, because actually I don't need a second.
We just need to see if any opposition.
Just, okay.
If there's no opposition.
Is there any opposition to the recommendation? Not hearing any opposition, motion passes. Thank you so much. Well, it's approved. All right, we're moving. Now we're down to the executive director's report, the next item of business. So the chair recognizes Ms. Amy DeVille for her report. Oh, I'm sorry, I really did. Y'all bear with me, wonderful world of technology. Okay, next time. Okay, now up for discussion is the action plan that was presented by the Action Plan Ad Hoc Committee. I'd like to thank those individuals that were part of that committee. It was a day-long process to be able to discuss that. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the draft for the 2023 action plan?
I just have a question in regards to like the contracts that we've had, I guess, going on this year for fiscal year 2022. If there's any contracts that have not met their obligations or not fully funded as we have provided for, what happens with those funds? Or are there any? And so what happens with those funds? How do we allocate that funding?
Within this fiscal year?
Yeah, so like for the 2022, because I heard like there was a couple that I've heard that didn't meet their.
Yeah, so we're monitoring it. I think most people should be able to spend the majority of their funds. Where we were having the most issues was with the customized employment initiative, because they can't get learning partners to finish out the certification. So we talked about it in, was it self-determination? No, education and employment. A lot of meetings there. And talked about the options of how we could shift focus in that contract. So they're going to switch to doing some gateway trainings. So 3-day trainings. They'll do, I think the plan is to do 3 across hitting different parts of the state, to be able to utilize the funds and also get people some certification. It's not the full customized employment certification, but it at least gives people a knowledge base on what customized employment is, to kind of help people learn about the importance of it and the skills needed and things like that. It would at least give people a jumping off point. And then our hope is that people who attend that gateway training might be able to later on hook up with LSU HTC, who is going to be offering the full customized employment verification training and kind of work their way into full certification.
So that fund, so the money that was for the contract for fiscal year 2022, which is this current year, we're allowing them to continue beyond September 30th to be able to use, or they have to do it.
They're switching it, now to spend that money within this fiscal year.
Okay, that was my.
And then we're recommending the planning committee recommended discontinuing that activity for next fiscal year because we're having too many problems.
Okay.
Question satisfied? Do we have any other questions in regards to the 2023 action plan? Not hearing any. Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Bazil, you're recognized by the chair.
I just wanted to say that roll call was not done and a quorum was not established.
Thank you very much. Let's digress for just a minute.
Ebony, can you roll call for me?
So this may not be in order, but I'm gonna just go off the order on my sheet. Miss Melissa Bayham.
Here.
Mr. Rashad Briscoe.
Here.
Miss Sherry Crane.
Here.
Miss Christy Gonzalez.
Here.
Miss Julie Foster Hagan.
Here.
Miss Angela Harmon. Here. Miss Bambi Polazola.
Here.
Miss Nicole Banks.
I'm here.
Kim Bazile.
Present.
Miss Brenda Kosey. Mr. Logan Davis,
Present.
Miss Jill Eaglin, Miss Jill Eaglin.
She's there.
Me, myself, present.
Okay, thank you,
Thank
Jill.
y'all.
Miss Cheney Gidry.
Here.
Miss Jill Hingham,
Here.
Mr. Mitch Iddens. He's trying to, Miss Mary Tarver. Miss Vivian Webb,
Here.
Miss Kimona Hogan,
Here.
Miss Rosalind Heimel,
Here.
Dr. Hyacinth McKee, Mr. Torrey Roca, Mr. Matt Rivera, Miss Crystal White, Dr. Phil Wilson.
I'm here representing Dr. Phil Wilson.
He won't count.
Okay.
But thank you. And Dr. Patty Baravecchio.
We do have a quorum.
Okay. Thank you for that. We do have a quorum,
16 members present.
16 members present. And just to go back over the ground rules, just remember that we're recognized by the chair before speaking. Be respectful of others' opinions. We'll break for 10 minutes every hour and a half. We'll discuss council business in a responsible manner. Accept the necessary respect. Restrict the use of electronic communications during council meetings. Please silence and turn off all cell phones. And also, again, let's just be mindful that our meetings are streaming live on YouTube. And there are a lot more eyes on this meeting than the ones that you're seeing on your screen or that's sitting in this council room. So just be mindful. So back to the action plan. Am I missing anything?
No, you can go back to the plan.
Okay.
There were no more. Well, Rosalind, has her hand.
Okay, Ms. Hamel, your hand is raised. You're recognized.
Yes, I was trying to see, is it the same, is it going to be the same? And that for what, was it Bambi's report? That, on, how can I say that she was reading off on?
Talking about the discussion that we just had, or are you talking about the presentation that she's gonna do later up in the council meeting?
The first one that you said,
Okay.
that she spoke with.
Right, so Bambi asked about the customized employment activity. And in the plan for next fiscal year, the planning committee's recommendation is that we don't do that activity again next year because it's not working as well as intended. We're not getting the results that we wanted to see out.
So are we going to do another plan that to replace this one that since it's not working out very good or what? So what's going to be, you know, a newer plan for next year?
Right, so we're discussing the new plan right now. And
Yes,
for customized employment, we don't have an exact activity that's the same for next year, because that one just wasn't really working. So we need to take some time to reevaluate.
That's what I'm trying to get to. And so are we going to discuss it and then come up with a better one than that one?
So do you want me to address what we're doing?
Yes, please.
Okay. Rosalind, this is Melissa Bayham with LRS. So
Where are you?
So LRS is continuing customized employment training. It's just being done through LSU, and we had a separate funding source that was actually paying for LSU to go through the training to be certified to certify customized employment vendors. So we really had two separate trainings going on at the same time in order to fulfill the same goal of certifying vendors for customized employment. So even though the DV Council is no longer going to be funding at the end of this fiscal year, customized employment vendor training, LRS is still going to continue through LSU HDC, and they will be trained and certified to certify customized employment vendors. So even though it's not going to be fulfilled any longer through this action plan, it's still ongoing. Does that make sense?
Yes, now I could follow now with that one.
Thank you.
In it.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Bayham. Thank you, Ms. Hamel.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Davis, I see your hand is raised. You're recognized by the chair.
Thank you, Chairman Bristow, and good morning, everybody. Regarding the draft plan, I only had a question about one activity, and it was the one activity that didn't have any explanation on the document that had the goals. Well, like the the activity number and then the goals, like the explanation.
Okay.
And my question was regarding activity 3.2.4.
Okay.
I just wanted some information behind that, and that's all I was raising my hand for. But besides that, it looks amazing.
Okay. Thank you for that. So your question was about activity 3.2.4?
Correct.
Okay. To ensure potential employers have access to financial information about financial incentives to support unserved and underserved population, including people with the most substantial employment support needs. Okay, on that particular one, there was a discussion during that particular meeting, and feel free to jump in at any time of those that were sitting in. There was a discussion at that particular time how some employers are not aware that there are certain incentives to employ those individuals who have disabilities, and just want to make that known to some of those employers. That way, it would be more of them to be aware that there's a incentive, there can be an incentive possibility for hiring individuals with disabilities. Just that way, it would give someone else a more fair opportunity to receive gainful employment.
I agree. And I'll talk to you about that offline, if you don't mind.
No problem.
But I like that. Thank you for clearing it up for me.
Yes,
And
sir.
I make them, but are we to the motion to accept the plan?
Yes, sir. We're to that point.
I make the motion to accept the plan as written. The FFY 2023 action plan.
We have a motion on the floor to accept the 2023 action plan.
I second it.
Okay. It's been moved by Mr. Logan Davis. It's been seconded by Vice Chair Banks. Any question? Is there any discussion from council members?
Rosalind.
Okay, Rosalind, I see your hand. Ms. Hamel, you're recognized. You have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Could I really get some this and maybe some other paperwork sent out to me where, you know, I could see what other plans that there will be
We didn't know she was coming.
done in that?
We can send it to her.
Because I am very so interested.
Yeah, Rosalind, do you want us to mail that to you?
Yes, please. I would
Okay.
appreciate it.
We'll take care of that.
So I
Thank you.
could keep my notes in that,
Sure.
in my notes, in my notebook, in that, and that's, I would like that. And I do agree with this as well.
You already took comment. So now you can just move to. No objection.
This is Bambi.
Then looking at-
Can, sorry, I stepped out because you might have addressed this, but just for, I know we have a lot of people who are new to the council. And several of our programs are going to be like it's our second or third year of funding these particular contracts. And so can you explain how we go? I know we don't fund things typically ongoing forever. There has to be a limit. So what is that process and where we're at on this? Knowledge?
Okay. So every 5 years, the council develops a 5-year plan. The last 5-year plan started this year in fiscal year 22. So fiscal year 23 is the second year of our 5-year plan. So some activities carry forward for a number of years when we feel like there's more to do in those activities to reach those goals of the 5-year plan. So that's why sometimes we'll have some that will last multiple years and sometimes occasionally span in between 2 different 5-year plans. Because sometimes an activity starts at the end of one 5-year plan and will get carried forward into the next.
Question, answer.
Yeah, I guess the point that I would want to make for everyone to understand is that we have restrictions on our federal money that we can't, this isn't to fund, it's to
Right.
start some type of initiative and then have another entity perhaps take it on and carry it if we see that it's best practices.
Thank you, Babe.
Thank you for that.
I've only been on the planning committee for like 10 years. I've learned something in those 10 years. So.
Ms. Hano, you have your hand raised, you're recognized. You have the floor.
No way. This is a comment or a question, so y'all, I'll find out when y'all do. But I've been tracking the planning committee for a few years now, and like we haven't had any kind of new, well, never mind, because I think it's because we're on the we're in the midst of a 5-year plan, but just, I know when we created the last 5-year plan, there was no really new concepts proposed. Like, how do we generate that to get like new ideas for new concepts? Does that make sense?
It does.
I mean, generally it's generated by the council and by people on the planning committee. So if you have an idea for something for, now we would be, if you have a concept that you want to think about or a plan and you're, you kind of have to wait till the next time we're developing a plan. But yeah, I mean, ideas generally come from the council and from people on the planning committees.
Standing committee.
And from standing committees, because it was last council meeting,
Yeah.
last quarter. All of the standing committees generated some ideas, and then the planning committee take those and put them in or change them up a little bit for the plan.
Question satisfied, Ms. Hayno?
Yes, sir.
Right. So just remind everybody, we do have a motion on the floor. We do have a second, but to questions by any council members?
Thank you, Ms. DeVille.
You're welcome, Joe.
Do we have any more discussion from council members on the draft for the 2023 action plan? Thank you. Bazil, okay. Ms. Bazil, you're recognized. You have the floor.
Yeah, I think we need to be careful how we say things because it was just said that we should only be funding new initiatives. LaCan is not new, and so that would leave them out.
So, there is a caveat with our funding for supporting activities that are about building leadership and self-advocacy. So programs like Partners in Policymaking and LaCan can be continually funded. Most of our other activities, we cannot continually fund anything. We have to have a set goal in mind. Once that goal is reached, we end that activity. So there are only a couple of things. There are a couple of things that you can continually fund, but those are pretty limited to LaCan and Partners in Policymaking.
And since those are continually funded, why don't we put those out for bid every year or every other year, like we have to do other contracts? Because I really think why should we just keep giving it to the same people? Why don't we put it out for bid?
Is that something that the council would like to entertain moving forward? Vice Chair Banks, I see your hand raised. You're recognized.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing me. I feel like that is a discussion that needs to be had because we are trying to move the council forward and programs forward and make the most effective change. So not saying that the agencies that we have working with now, that they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, but I do agree with Kim is saying because we should be able to put out a bid. In other contracts, other people are put out a bid every year to see if other companies can take on the workload, or they're cheaper, or they're getting more work done than the ones that we currently have right now. So I think that does need to be put in a discussion. And I yield the floor.
Okay. Mr. Davis, your hand, I see your hand, you're recognized. You got the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I too think that opening contracts, like bidding out, would help sustain other people, like just not using the same one organization for everything. Just diversify everything. Use multiple organizations for and like you, I think I'm just, mansplaining contracts and bids, and for that I'm sorry, but just put it out for bid and see what you get. I mean, I don't know, just diversifying things. So everything, I'm thinking in an economy, everybody gets a piece of the pie.
Okay, thank you for that comment, noted. And Ms. Bazil, I see your hand, you're recognized.
I just think what Logan was trying to say is let's get some fresh blood and fresh ideas in there.
Yes, thank you, Kim. Yes, perfect way to summarize what I was trying to say. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Hayno, I see your hand, you're recognized. You have the floor.
Like, I understand, but like for Partners in Policymaking in LaCan, and I know wanna prevent change, but like isn't that kind? I thought that was like I thought that was kind of standard, like reach out to you, like 'cause I mean I thought specifically with partners in against specifically with McCann, it was kind of like even though like it's not a mandate, it's kind of like goes on a plan like every year we're not gonna have partners and we're not gonna have Lagan. And I thought those contracts were standard. So like who else would we reach out to, because we have the partners contract. Like I'm very confused. Like what would be some examples of the end goal?
So let me ask this question for clarity. When we're talking about looking at rebidding, are we talking about just those two specific ones, or just in generalization moving forward? Just like we talked about partners and we talked about the can. Ms. Brazil, I see your hand. I'll let you have the floor.
I would say everything. Like I said, fresh blood, new eyes, new ideas.
Okay. Anybody else have anything for discussion?
This is Bambi. I mean, Act 378 is pretty clear about strengthening our DD system. And so while I'm all for competition and we need to be people being most effective and efficient in whatever programs we're doing, I'm just kind of concerned of where we would, who would we give these contracts to? I mean, I've seen instances where the council has given money to entities that are out of state when we've had in-state that I felt could do a good job. And so I'm concerned, not necessarily our group, but we're making long-term decisions. And I mean, both of these contracts that we're talking about are with our Families Helping Family Centers. And so I feel like it's our job to make sure that we're strengthening our Families Helping Family Centers, which I know we all value, at the same time, having some good, a good rubric of how we're making sure they're doing their job. And if a certain contract is not being done correctly, then open it up for someone else within our DD system.
Right.
To be able to get that. I'm just concerned that there's a slippery slope of us going outside and diluting the power that's within our DD system as it is.
Okay. Thank you for that. And just remind everybody, we still have a motion on the floor. We have a second and we're at a discussion amongst council members. I see Ms. Vivian Webb, your hand is raised. You're recognized by the chair. Ms. Webb, you have the floor.
Yes, sir. Why can someone explain to me why we're talking about like bidding it out? Isn't Lacan the advocacy network for our council?
It is. It was just a question that was brought up by one of our council members because we're in the process of reviewing our 2023 state plan, action plan, excuse me. And it was just a question that was brought up by the council members. And it's a conversation that's being explored, that we're currently exploring and weighing in the options of the advantages and possibly the disadvantage of doing something. And also another thing taken into consideration is we don't have to do a bid under any state document that's under $215,000. 50, excuse me, 50. Did that answer your question, Ms. Webb?
Well, why are we like talking about like who would we bid it out to? Why? I don't completely understand.
I think, Rashad, I think what she's asking, so right now it's Families Helping Families of Southwest Louisiana that has the LaCan contract, is that right? So that's who, they get the contract every year. So our Families Helping Families in Lake Charles is the fiscal agent, I guess, in a way for LaCan. And so that's what they're talking about, like who would get that, who would do that work? And right now it's been for a long time, Families Helping Families of Southwest Louisiana. So the discussion is, should we open it up to let somebody else be that entity that kind of organizes and coordinates and does the fiscal agent stuff for LaCan? Does that make sense, Vivian? Like she's frozen.
Okay.
I'm not completely sure. Is there a way you could reward that?
If I may, excuse me, if I may.
Ms. Hyman, go ahead, you have the floor.
All right, well, Ms. Webb, for me, I am a part of the LA Can, in that I'm in 1 and 10 on the LA Can. So for us, what we do, we are a part of the council as well. And we kind of bring it together. We do the same thing and we bring it to the DD Council's attention in that. So if we could find the plan and the act, kind of bring up, what we can do to our, to our leaders on here. So if you want to have like a plan, let's say for the school teachers to get a better raise, for an example, we could do that, or other plans to have the funds that they need in that. Even here at Magnolia, we could get the plan, we could get, the plans, we could get the funds that we need here. So the LA Can and DD Council comes together as one. So if I may, Chairman, did I say that about right? If we come together as one big team? If I did say that right?
In so many words, yes. And I see a bunch of hands. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just go across the road to recognize everybody. Ms. Webb, we haven't forgotten about your question. Hopefully with some discussion, your question will get answered. Mr. Davis, I see your hand, you're recognized. Then we'll have Ms. Eagley. And from that point, Vice Chair Banks and then Ms. Bazile, in that order.
Thank you for the recognition, Chair. I actually forgot my question, so I'll lower my hand.
Not a problem. Okay, from that point, Ms. Eagley, your hand was raised. You recognize you have the floor. You can unmute.
Yeah, what's going on with LaCan? I mean, I've been active for Lord, I don't know for how long, ever since I got on the DD Council, but what's the big picture? Is LaCan ineffective? Are they trying to do another contract? I mean, what's really going on?
No, just to bring clarity, there's no discrepancy with any organization. The question we just asked about the consideration of offering the bid to someone else. But I see Ms. Bazile's hand. So Ms. Bazile, I'm gonna jump ahead of you for a minute, Vice Chair Banks, so you can go ahead and answer the question that's being proposed.
I don't want to do away with LaCan. I don't want to do away with partners. I think what I'm trying to say is let's put out for bid who runs those contracts. maybe someone could do it better, more efficiently, because you have to remember, for instance, the one that has the Lacan contract, they hire and fire all the Lacan leaders.
Oh my God.
So, you know, just because they've had it for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, does that mean they should always have it? And I'm not picking on anyone. It could be said for partners. It could be said for anything. And just because the state says you don't have to put something out for bid, if that's best practices, why don't we do it?
So does that answer your question, Ms. Eagle?
Yeah, it does. But you know, when I'm still active in Lacan, it seems like whatever region you're in or parish, they're good Lacan. But the question of doubt is that how is it going to ever be a trustworthy person for people with intellectual disabilities in the DE Council? Because there's such a low turnout right now with everything, you know, with COVID dying down. I mean, how do you know if they hire a new Lacan leader based on the region, if it's a trustworthy, honest person? Because sometimes Lacan leaders do it, but then after they're like, oh, I can't deal with this, and they move on.
Redirect. We're not particularly talking about a particular entity or agency. We're just talking in general about the bidding of the contract. I don't want anyone to walk away from this, even though Lacan is the enemy, and that we're not in partnership or agreement with the services that they're providing.
I got you.
This is just a discussion about if moving forward, if we want to continue to do business the way we've been doing it, or if we want to find another contractor to handle business on our behalf. That's basically the question. So I hope that brings clarity. Vice Chair Banks, your hand is up. You're recognized by the chair. You got the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so now since I'm getting more information about how, you know, things are ran and about the bidding and about how much it can actually, we don't need a amount for the bid. So that leads me to this. I see what Kim is saying about, you know, just because they've been there for 20 years plus, you know, that doesn't mean they have to still be there. But are these the entities that's like really making decisions and moving the council forward? I'm talking about like Lacan and just the example that she gave. So my question is, I'm gonna word it the right way.
Ebony, do you want to describe what the relationship?
I think that we need some clarity in regards to each, like all of our partners and where they line up with us. I believe we asked that before, probably about a couple of years ago, with all of this, that was asked, if is there a way that we can find that on the council, like how each partner that we're working with, how does that correlate with the council? Like what actual activities do this partner do that partner do? Are they working with that goal? Because then we can get a clarity of who's working with who, and then we can go and talk about, okay, is this person really getting the job done? I think once we get that and we get a clarity of how all of the structure and the partners and people that we work with goes, then we can make a more informed decision upon this topic.
Okay, thank you for that. We have a public comment that's in the room. I see your hand, Mr. Davis, please.
Before you move to that, can we let Ebony kind of explain so that everybody understands the relationship between Lacan and the council and how things are run?
Okay, so I don't know if everyone can hear me, but Susan is the executive director over all the Lacan leaders. She works with us, we're a team. She works with Brenton, I am the new program monitor, Ms. Rakisha Branch, to hire the Lacan leaders. But we provide the support for the Lacan leaders. We educate them. We make sure that they know what the council's advocacy agenda is every year so that they can educate their members. We support them on their legislative visits. We support them on their roundtables. And Susan is the executive director, so she does make the rules, but she's still working together with the council. We're a team. And so I don't want anybody to walk away thinking that we're not, the council staff isn't working together to make sure that LaCan is successful with Susan. She's not completely over the whole thing. The council staff work very closely with Susan to make sure that the LaCan leaders are educated and carrying out the council's business. And I kind of went over that yesterday whenever we were in self-determination, just that the LaCan leaders, we support them in every way so that they can make sure that they are carrying out the council's business as you guys set the agenda in October, and whenever roundtables come around, they are doing the council's business. So we work together as a team with Susan to make sure that LaCan is on track. So that's the relationship we have with them. But I can answer any other questions if you guys have questions specifically about LaCan and how it works.
Thank you for that. And just to refresh everybody's memory, this is about a discussion about rebidding, not the performance of the LaCan. Just want to make sure we clarify that. Also, we have a public hands that was raised. You have the floor. Please identify yourself. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Charlie Michel. I'm the Executive Director of Byland Families Helping Families. 3 points quick. One is to what Ebony said. I can attest to the level of support that we get. I don't have the contract, but I see what our LaCan leader, what kind of support they get from the council and the staff. So that's without question. The other thing is, if we were to put this out on bid, we would need to come, I say we, pretend I'm part of y'all. We would have to put deliverables in that so that the people that would be bidding would know what it is. So my question to you would be, can we not come up, if we don't think the deliverables being met, that's one issue, you deal with that. If the deliverables aren't maybe getting what we want out of it, then address that with the people who have the current contract. And if they can't or won't do it, then you look at rebidding. That's the 2 points that I would make. The last point, I really think that this whole topic of conversation is a separate agenda item, and it's not truly related to the motion that's on the floor, because we're not talking about who's going to get it. We're talking about the activity. And even as we're discussing the bidding, it is to continue the activities. So I think we could stop the discussion on whether or not we bid it out, vote on whether or not the council wants to approve this action plan, and then at some later date or a later time in this meeting, if y'all want to, discuss the whole bidding process and how y'all would go about doing that.
Thank you for that. There was another hand that I saw.
Lillian.
Hi, my name is Lillian Dejean. I'm a self-advocate. 2 things. One, our Families Helping Family Centers have held these contracts for years and years and years now. We know LaCan is a really effective entity. And also, we also have seen a lot of turnover with our LaCan leaders. So I'm not really sure why we would disrupt the system when we already have turnover, but yet it's still an effective entity. So I think changing up the contracts, we're just causing more disruption in the system when we could just be working on making it a little bit more stable. Secondly, I have a comment about why I left after this motion was over, and I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay, thank you for that, Ms. Dejean. The hands that I saw raised, Ms. Webb, your hand is raised now. Listen, let me preface something. Once you've actually made your first comment, your point's pretty much been made. The second, just to bring clarity. But when we start going on 3rd and 4th comments, we're kind of killing the dead horse again. So I just want to make sure that we have this understood moving forward. Ms. Webb, you recognize you have the floor.
Yes, sir. I just have a question out of curiosity. How many of y'all have been showing up for Yellow Shirt Days lately?
Is there anyone in the room or on Zoom able to actually answer that question for her? Well, Ms. Webb, that's an exploratory question. We'll try to have an answer for you before the end of the council meeting. Okay, Mr. Davis, you recognize you have the floor.
I think I am like confused about the bidding contracts, everything like that. But are you worried about safety with the bidders of the contracts, or are you worried about their financial financials, what exactly is the hesitation to solicit bids for services? And I know, I mean, I heard deliverables, I heard a bunch of things, but would there be a background check done on these contract bidders or whomever, and an audit established like within the contract? Like I said, I'm confused.
Yeah, I'll answer your questions really quick, but then I do think we probably have to table this discussion and get back to the motion on the floor.
Agreed.
But there aren't background checks done on people that we contract with. Financial audits are only required in certain circumstances with the people that we contract with, and that usually has to do with the amount of federal funds that they get from all entities in the course of a year.
Okay. Ms. Hano, your hand is raised. You recognize you have the floor.
Okay, I was not on mute. I kind of forgot, but I think my first question was overlooked. And but then again, Vivian kind of it was Vivian asked the same thing I was wondering, and then it was answered. But if we contract this, if we get new bids, like I still don't understand who it would be to, because I thought that Pip and LeCann were both funded through FHF and then contracted by DDC. So would these bid outs, which I think I'm for, I just need more clarity, would these bid outs be to the other 8 FHF families, or like, cause I thought that we could only, we can't, and no, not that anyone's saying it, but we can't not fund, we have to fund LeCann and Pip, but like, are we limited to the fiscal agents that we can solicitate from? Like, would it be one of, like, where would we be specifically looking for a bid from one of the other FHF centers, or like, where would we look for the bid from?
That's your question. It'd be presumptuous to say it'd be another FHF center. It would have to be a bid. And with it being a bid, it would have to be whoever bids and whoever the DD Council feels the most comfortable with, who accepts, that gives the bid that we're satisfied with. and they have the credentials that we're satisfied with. It goes in that part, so it's really a lot more dynamics to it than just saying we will remove it from one to another if we're gonna do a bid. Because with the bid, we have to be non-biased, and everyone would have to, it would just open up the door where anyone could be able to bid for it. So wouldn't they be discriminate to just one particular avenue of service centers? I hope that answers your question.
I don't know.
Okay. Now, let me remind everybody, you're welcome. We do have a motion in regards to the 2023 action plan. We had a first, we have a second. So we're at the discussion. I see Ms. Eglay's hand, and then we're gonna move forward with the vote. Because the comments really need to be toward the 2023 action plan. So Ms. Eglay, you have the floor. You're recognized.
Yes. Well, I know I'm trying to inhale all this, with the DD Council, but why, just when you think of, people with IDD, why is there a low turnout with everything right now?
In regards to your question, actually, it's not relevant to the plan, but to answer your question, a lot of it is people just coming out their reservations from the pandemic. I believe it has a contributing factor to it. I believe a lot of people are just starting to feel comfortable getting back out, being active, and doing the things they were doing in the community in order to be effective for the services in which they provide.
Actually, Chairman, Mr. Rashad, I understand that. And, people are now feeling at ease because with the pandemic being over, they gradually going back. But my biggest advocacy is, I know the legislative session is still on. When is ever, the DSPs and the personal care attendants for the self-advocates, when are they going to ever have a good turnout so the rates can go in effect and everything can be okay? Because every year it's always the same thing.
Yes, ma'am. It's a good question. I really don't have an answer for it, but I do need to redirect to the council members that we do have a motion on the floor for the 2023 action plan. We have a first, we have a second, we're at discussion. Are you ready for the question?
Yeah, and I'm more concerned about the LDH and the OCDD's budget, because if that's not allocated with rates, how are the DSPs supposed to work with us and support us when none of the DSPs and PCAs want to work with IDD? I mean, that's a crisis right now.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, man.
I'm just expressing my concern.
Okay, well, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Ms. Brazil, I see your hand. You recognize you have the floor.
I'd like to call the question.
Okay, it's been called a question.
A second.
A second.
Okay, it's been called a question, it's been seconded by Ms. Polozola.
We have to roll call. Do you have it?
We're gonna do a roll call vote on the stance for accepting the. Do we have any objections to the motion? Do we have any abstentions? Okay, so at this point, the motion on the floor is that the approval of the adoption of the council's 2023 action plan. At this point, we're gonna do a roll call vote.
Well, do we have any objections?
Do we have any objections? I didn't see it.
If you don't have any objections, you don't have to do a roll call.
Okay.
Unless you want to.
Gordon, please.
Okay. So we're gonna do a roll call vote, and if you say yes, it's a vote to approve the draft plan that the planning committee presented to you all, that was included in your packet. If you vote no, that is a rejection to the action of the draft action plan that the planning committee submitted for fiscal year 2023. So, Ms. Banks?
Yes.
Ms. Banks, yes. Ms. Bazile?
Yes.
Ms. Bazil, yes. Ms. Bayham?
Yes.
Ms. Bayham, yes. Ms. Crane?
Yes.
Ms. Crane, yes. Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Davis, yes. Ms. Eagling?
Yes.
Ms. Eagling, yes.
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez, yes. Ms. Gidry?
Yes.
Ms. Gidry, yes. Ms. Hagan, oh, I think she has to leave. Ms. Hayno?
Yes.
Ms. Hayno, yes. Ms. Harmon?
Yes.
Ms. Harmon, yes. Ms. Hogan? Ms. Heimel?
Yes.
Ms. Heimel, yes. Mr. Iddens?
Yes.
Mr. Iddens, yes. Ms. Polazola?
Yes.
Ms. Polazola, yes. Ms. Tarver?
Yes.
Ms. Tarver, yes. Ms. Webb?
Can you please restate what we're voting on?
So you're voting on the draft action plan for fiscal year 2023 that the planning committee submitted to the full council. A yes would be you're in agreement with the draft.
Already, yes.
Ms. Webb, yes.
Okay. Motion passes. Thank you so much. Also with the discussion, there'll be another time, we'll have time for a discussion to pick up on what's been presented in regards to bids, probably when it comes down to maybe new business. At this point, we're at the executive director's report. So the next time up for business is the executive director's report, and the chair recognizes Amy DeVille for her report.
Thank you, Chair. I always try to keep these brief as much as possible. So in January, we did new council member orientation with our new members. We covered a number of topics about the council, history of the council, the makeup of the committees and the executive committee, standing committees, mission and responsibilities. New members also received an orientation to parliamentary procedures by Nicole Learson. This quarter, we also did federal reporting. We had to submit to the Administration for Community Living our program performance reports for fiscal years 20 and 21, and that was due by March 1st. And it took a lot of time. March was Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month, and so we collaborated with the Office for Citizens with Developmental Disabilities, the ARC of Louisiana, People First, Special Needs, and Parent Support Services of Louisiana to develop a series of webinars and panel discussions on various topics that we had throughout the month. And there is a link in my report to the recordings of those webinars. They were very interesting, and we were pretty proud of that. Legislative roundtables were held in February and March as we went over our legislative agenda and presented that to the public and to legislators. We had a pretty good turnout at those events, and we got a lot of great responses from legislators. Our first Yellow Shirt Day since 2020 was held on March 23rd. And so that was a very exciting day when people were able to show up again in yellow shirts for the Senate Education meeting, where we heard SB 645, cameras in special education classrooms. In addition, we also hired, we've referenced her name a couple of times throughout the meetings, Ms. Rakesha Branch. She has taken the program monitor position that Ebony vacated when she moved into the deputy director role. And we're very excited to have her. She's got years of experience in the developmental disabilities field. So she's got a lot of great background to share with us. Ebony and I both participated in the Medicaid TEFRA visual work group, which was Medicaid and OCDD worked together to put together kind of a visual workflow of the TEFRA process. which is available online. Ebony also attended the disability policy seminar. We took part in LDH stakeholder meetings. Brenton attended the OCDD State Advisory Committee and GACTA Legislative Committee. We typically end up attending all the GACTA committees, but that was the one mentioned. And then there are many other meetings referenced in this very long document that you're free to go through and just see all the meetings that we spend our time on. And that's it for the executive director.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Blue. Are there any questions from the members on the executive director report?
I have a comment about YLF after any questions on the executive director's report.
Okay. Questions from any council members in regards to the executive director report? All right.
Oh, hold on, Jill Hano, is that right?
Okay, thank you. Ms. Hano, you're recognized by the chair. You have the floor.
I don't know if this pertains to, and I think I'm out of order, but when does this increase take effect for Ms. DeVille? Or should I ask this later?
Are you in regards to the increase that just for the executive committee and the council just voted on?
Yeah.
No, it could take place on. It could take place immediately at the beginning of next pay period.
Okay. It could take place as soon as next pay period.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Sorry, Chair.
No, not a problem. Do we have any more questions in regards to the executive director's report? All right, this report requires no action that we placed on file. That was a question, public comment from Ms. Dejan. I'm recognizing you have the floor.
So it's a little bit unclear on the motion earlier whenever y'all adopted the plan. I thought it was a vote on Kim's motion regarding the bidding of the contracts. And so the planning committee offered the youth leadership forum that we're planning in 2023, $15,000. And so for those of you who don't know, a youth leadership forum is essentially like a PIP for youth with disabilities. It's essentially like a 1 week long summer camp. Over 30 other states have it. It's incredibly successful. And we used to have one in 2000 to 2005. This actually ended because of funding issues of Hurricane Katrina. So like I mentioned, y'all's planning committee allotted it $15,000. But in the early 2000s, the DD Council actually funded it with approximately $17,500. So we're planning on giving YLF less funding than we did over 20 years ago, yet it was incredibly successful and only ended because of funding issues. So I want to ask that the DD Council allots an extra $15,000 to YLF. Because this year you're planning on funding partners in policymaking at $90,000. You have an average of 20 participants in PIP. We're anticipating approximately 15 participants at YLF. So we have nearly the same amount of participants, but only 1/6 of the funding. Additionally, YLF will be 100% self-advocates or just people with disabilities. Combining statistics from 2018, 2019, and 2020, only about 16% of PIP participants were self-advocates. The rest were parents or professionals. So I question what this says about our priorities in training our self-advocates and cultivating this new generation of advocates that we so desperately need, right? The DD Council has been talking about a need for more self-advocates for years now. We've been talking about a need for more youth self-advocates for years now. yet we still haven't funded anything. And now that we're giving YLF $15,000, I think we need a little bit more. So this would be a reliable method to cultivate a new generation of self-advocates. And this has a huge potential to make a really, really positive impact on our community. And so the CD Council has had a positive impact on our community for years now. And so I think this could really help support Bill's mission. I think it could be really positive. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And thank you for listening and letting me speak.
Thank you, Ms. Dejon. Mr. Higgins, I see your hand. You're recognized by the chair. You have the floor.
Thank you, Lillian, for your comments. I was just wondering if we have the funds in the budget to increase the budget for your program. Do you know what you would spend the additional $15,000 on? What activities you would be doing with the additional money?
So this would all depend on other funding sources and the restrictions, but just for context, there's a lot of different elements of YLF that would need to be funded, because essentially what this is an overnight summer camp for youth with disabilities. So we may have to pay staff as support, maybe nursing for your more medically complex kids, lodging, food. There's also a day at the Capitol too, as well, so they can learn about legislative advocacy, which is what we're so strong with LCAN. So there's a lot of different funding nuances of this that the YLF ad hoc committee under this council is working through right now. But really, we need the seed funding to get this started. I mean, we haven't had a YLF in over 15 years, which is absolutely ridiculous when we consider that over 30 other states are having one, and we had one that was incredibly successful. So we're still in the early stages of planning this. We're still trying to figure out where funding is going to go and how to divvy it out among the different needs. But the bottom line is we really need this funding, and it's a great program to support. And also, I think it would really benefit the DD Council because we've needed more self-advocates for years now. And this is a direct pipeline to cultivate that new generation of advocates.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Dejon.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Ms. Higgins. I see you hand us hand. Hold on just a moment. The protocol for this would actually have to be, will come up in new business if anyone is really wants to entertain or make any kind of amendment to the discussion for the YLF. Because at the moment, we're in the middle of the budget report. I yield the floor to Ms. Dejon so she could have an opportunity to speak, because I didn't know how long it would be before we were able to get to that point. So the discussion from this point moving forward would be about YLF. I just want you to take in consideration, no action can be taken until we get to new business. So I just want to go ahead and preference that moving forward before I take the next comment. Ms. Haynes, you have the floor.
All my Robert's rules have gone out the window today, apparently. May I ask Lillian a question?
Hold on just a minute. Ms. Dejon, will you be able to be here for the majority of the day? Okay. We're going to table that because the appropriate time to have a in-depth discussion about YLF will be during new business. Because if there's any kind of desire to make any kind of a motion, that'd be the only time we could really effectively address this. So,
okay, thank you, Rashawn.
Yes, ma'am. So that way we can stay in protocol with Robert Rules of Order, since you know, that way we can and move forward with the business. Hopefully we can expedite it. So do we have any? We don't have anything about the executive director report. So now we're up to the budget report. Next item up for business. Ms. DeVille.
This is the budget report. Let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, what, did I miss anything?
Oh man, we're just up to the budget report. We just got through the executive director's report.
Oh, okay. I just stepped out of the room and, you know, I'm just trying to catch up.
Oh man, you didn't miss anything.
Thank
you. You're welcome.
Expand it so you can't see everything on the screen, but what we're really looking at are year-to-date percentage expenditures and budget balance. We are about, at the time of this report, approximately about 75% of the way through our fiscal year. So you would expect to see percentages somewhere around there in most line items. This part right here that is all zeros, that is travel for meetings, which you'll recall, we didn't do any of that until April. So those types of expenses, we won't have any until next meeting, you'll see on the report. Everything else in terms of percentages expended is trending in the way that we would expect. And so, yeah, our budget is good. We don't have any shortfalls anywhere at this time. And if we should have any, I anticipate being able to move money between line items, should that be necessary. But at this point, I don't even anticipate that being an issue.
Okay. That complete your report?
That does complete my report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ville. Do we have any questions from council members on regards to the budget report that's presented, that's on screen?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Davis, I see your hand. You recognize you have the floor.
Can this report be sent to me via email? Just the document that we just saw, the budget, the SFY 20, the script,
The one that's on the screen?
yes, ma'am. Thank you. I'm sorry. That was my nervous tick when my language messes up, and I'm sorry you had to witness that.
It's fine.
No problem, Mr.
Yep,
Davis.
I will email it to you.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, Vice Chair Banks, I see your hand. You have the floor. You recognize.
Thanks, Chair, for recognizing me. So I just have a couple questions. You see where under operating expense and dues and subscription, we're already at 82 and 95. I know we only have like, what, a couple months left of this fiscal year, right? Correct?
Yep.
Are y'all gonna go over that? Because they already high, like they above the 75%. I'm just asking for the operating expense and for the dues and subscriptions, because that's
Right.
already higher than the 75%. Unless
Right, so-
that's broken down a different way.
No, so dues and subscriptions, that expense is really already paid. Everything that's going to come out of that line item for the year has already been taken out. That's why it's almost finished. Operating expenses, we will probably be fine. But if for some reason we are falling short in that one line item, we have enough funds unspent, for instance, in the travel portion where we weren't able to spend money, that I can move down to cover any expenses that we have. But I actually don't anticipate that we'll go over.
Okay. All right, thank you. That was my question. I yield the floor.
Okay, Ms. Brazil, I see your hand. You're recognized by the chair. You have the floor.
Thank you. Okay, Amy, so that is my cursor. Under year-to-date percentage expended, let's just take the first line, salaries, 56%. Fringe benefits, 66%, but then you go to total personal services and it says 20%. That doesn't make sense to me. Shouldn't it be 478, 514 divided by the 805, 746, which would give you closer to maybe 59%?
Yeah, let me look at it. Can I get back to you on it? Because I need to see exactly what lines it's pulling from to get that percentage.
Okay, and in the meantime, Ms. Heimel, I see your hand. You're recognized by the chair. You got the floor.
Yeah, this is my question for the straight across the board. And that would for each quarter straight, would it ever, the budget would ever change the numbers itself? Or does it stay the way it is? That's what I want to know.
Talking about the budget in general.
Yeah, in general.
The budget will change basically from year to year based upon whatever expenditures and whatever comes up, based upon multiple dynamics. One could be whatever is prioritized over whatever may take precedence at the time. So it's a lot of moving parts, but yes, to answer your question, the budget will fluctuate annually.
Is it like in general with the budget? Would, because I'm seeing there's still a lot of zeros. I don't know if those zeros mean they never.
Of the zeros that you see in that column where it's straight zeros, that's gonna be what's considered a fourth quarter expenditure. And that has not been tabulated yet because I don't think that
They never turned
Haven't had the
in?
right, the fourth quarter hasn't come yet. The fiscal year starts in July 1st, and it ends.
I mean, in like, no, the first, second, and the third. They have zeros in it.
Zeros in travel.
Oh,
It's
travel.
because we haven't had any travel for council members.
We haven't had any travel for council. Those zeros that you're looking at on the first, second, and third, that's in regards to the travel because we haven't had travel for council members. This is the first meeting where travel is actually basically being activated. So you won't see that until the end of the year report. But that's why you see the zeros under that because that goes under the travel, and we haven't had any travel because of the pandemic. Everything has been 100% virtual up until this meeting.
So when could that be, I mean, with traveling, what could that consider going to happen?
You're asking like, will that money be lost or?
No, I mean, would it come up? Would it bring it up when we start traveling again?
Yes, when you start traveling again, we would start seeing some dollar figures in those columns.
Oh, thank you for that one, because that's like, that's where I was stumped. I didn't understand that, why, you know. So that's part is like being on hold.
Right, there wasn't any travel because of the COVID pandemic, so nobody was traveling. So staff and council members had no travel during all of the rest of the year.
Oh, okay, that makes sense now. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any more questions in regard to the budget report that's been presented by the executive director?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Davis, I see your hand. You're recognized by the chair. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman and Ms. DeVille. My question is regarding going, again, I apologize. My question is going back to the action plan. Mr.
Davis, we're not able to digress at the moment because we move forward from the action plan. Our questions have to be directed to the current discussion right now, which is the budget report.
And it's going back to the action plan. For the item, well, I calculated the amount of costs from the action plan, and it is $700,000. Where does that pull from on the screen?
So it won't, so this budget report is for the current plan and the current fiscal year. So you won't see that total on this budget report. But next fiscal year, you would see it coming out of this right here that says total contracts.
Uh-huh.
It will come out of here. It is grouped into, you see this much larger figure?
Yes, ma'am.
That is because we receive state general funds for the Families Helping Families Center. So those state general funds are rolled into that same line item.
Mhm.
So we keep track of all contracts there. But that 700,000 would be rolled into that line item next year.
Okay, and there's currently a balance of 789,000 roughly. And so if there's any extra left over, what do you do with it?
I have to text her. Hang on.
It depends on the timing. If there's anything extra and I have enough time within the state fiscal year,
Mhm.
then I would come to the council and ask to have that money reassigned, probably to an existing project that
Okay,
might
but-
be able to spend those funds.
But it's never reallocated back to the general fund, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Another question I had was, so there is, where on it will it pull for, pull from, council members, choosing to go to, training or educational opportunities? Would that be under,
It's going to be here in this council meeting or council member in-state travel or council member out-of-state travel, depending on where it is or what it's for.
Thank you for answering my questions, and I yield back my time.
All right, thank you for that. Any more questions in regard to the budget report that's been presented by the executive director? Not seeing any hands, this report requires no action and we record it to file. If there's no objection, the meeting will recess for 10 minutes. So the time is now 10:03. We will return at 10:14. I don't know, vote like I used to.
Hey, Chairman, can you mute your end?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
We're gonna get started in 1 minute.
I'll show you.
Hey, Jill E. You all right? You okay? You're muted.
Rosin, I just want it all to be calm with rates, DD console, DSPs, everything to be allocated.
Yeah, but you're doing okay though, right?
Oh yeah, I'm okay. I'm about to be 46 July 19th of this year, but I'm not gonna let it control me.
I want to be 50. Wait a minute. Talking about age, I'm about to be 52.
In August.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
You older than, hey, you 2 years older than, no, you're a year older than Remy because he's 50 already.
Yeah. I'm 51.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Magnolia reopened when last week?
This week, it was
Okay,
on
the
a
time is
Monday. on the
10:17. We're called back to order. The meeting's back in order.
Okay.
The next
we
item of
talk
the business
later.
is committee reports. First report is from the Act 378 Subcommittee. The chair recognizes Chairperson Bambi Polozola of the committee for the report.
Hi, everyone. This report will be brief. Yesterday, the Act 378 Subcommittee met. We don't have any recommendations for the council to consider. We did spend some time reviewing fiscal year 22 third quarter data for the programs within Offices for Citizens with Developmental Disabilities and Behavioral Health and Aging and Adult Services, which is through the Orford, Louisiana. These reports can be found linked in our committee agenda on the council's meetings webpage, if you would like to review. When we discuss the behavioral health report, specifically the consumer care resources and the flexible family funds, there were questions and confusion about the total obligated column. It was noted that there were discrepancies between the way Office of Behavioral Health and Office for Citizens with Developmental Disabilities report this information. So Tanya Murphy, who's with OCDD, will share with OBH how they complete this particular area of the report and what efforts they have made to ensure consistency with the LGEs, which is our the local governing entities or the human service districts and authorities. Also, when we discuss the State Personal Assistance Services Program, or SPAS, which is contracted with the ARC of Louisiana and funded through our Office of Aging and Adult Services, a few committee members were concerned about the lengthy wait for this service and the need to advocate for more funding for this program to ensure individuals on the wait list are served. At this point, it's too late for legislative advocacy, but this may be something that the council wants to consider advocating for during the next session, legislative session. And that concludes my report.
All right, thank you, Ms. Polozola. Do we have any council members, any questions in regards to the report that's been presented by Act 378 Subcommittee? Not seeing any hands on the virtual or in the room. This report requires no action and will be recorded, placed on file. The next item up for business is a report of the Education Employment Committee. The chair recognizes Mary Tarver for the report. Ms. Tarver, you have the floor.
Mr. Chairman.
Hold on, just 1 minute, Ms. Tarver. Ms. Hyman?
Yeah, Jill Hoax had her 2 fingers up. Not just, I didn't know if she had a question or not.
Ms. Hayno, did you have a question?
what, Danny, what did you say about, the bus program? There was a long, I call it SPAS because when I write it in my mind, that's how it comes up. But there was a long waiting list. And what did you say?
For the long waiting list is for the SPAS program. Like
And
several.
you said there was something else y'all discussed.
The potential advocacy in the future, not for this session because it's too late, but in the future, it's something the council could consider potentially advocating for more funding for that program.
Okay, thank you, and thank you, Rosa. And then good.
Hey, you
luck
quite
in that.
welcome, Jill. I
Thank
just saw you, that's all.
Rashawn.
All right. Thank you very much. If there's no other questions in regard to that, we move forward. Ms. Tarver, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good morning. I filled in for Dr. McKee yesterday as the chair for the Education and Employment Committee meeting. There was information presented on Act 456 for cameras in the classroom. That right now is going through the legislators. Right now, the legislation has added some the policy for implementation of the cameras in the classroom has added a date that all school systems have to submit their policies by January the 15th of 2023. It has to include guidance on how the family or guardian can request the cameras. There were some things in there. The oversight was not included. Initially, funding for $8 million was in the legislation, but it did not go through the budget, did not reflect that. So at this time, funding has not been secured for this. The discussion was in the legislators, I think, that the Louisiana Department of Education should look for funds to move this forward. And so Meredith Jordan gave some information about how they are trying to do that and working with the federal government for federal funding and trying to find the correct source, or if there is a source that can be used for that. In the education, Department of Education update, Meredith talked a little bit more about cameras in the classrooms. She presented information on the state performance plan and the performance report and the target setting, and went over that information as well as the special education funding and IDEA FY22 funding activities. And those are all attached in your packets. We did have a discussion about a letter from the council to the Attorney General for clarification of open meeting laws and how it relates to the American with Disabilities Act to ensure that all open meetings are accessible to people with disabilities. We also talked about the seminar for our activities of the activity 3.2.2, which was the seminar for hiring individuals with developmental disabilities. They did have a kickoff with the seminars. They had good attendance. There was 43 people that attended, and there was a discussion about how we could get the DD Council to work on hiring individuals with developmental disabilities. There was also a report from Louisiana Rehabilitation Services from Melissa Bayham And she also has her report attached to the agenda for today. We did have the last discussion about customized employment training, which is activity 3.2.1. Kelly Monroe gave an update and requested that that they move toward certifications, not the customized employment training that is currently being worked on. They only have, I think, 2 people, she said, that have been able to partner with the learning partners and go through the process. They're having trouble between COVID and finding people that can help be mentors. So the request was to have that about $18,000 was left, and that they could still use that for the same activity for employment training. It would be something that they would do the gateway training. So that was discussed. And then there's also the Louisiana Post-Secondary Inclusive Education Alliance for LaPie. That's activity 3.1.1. And Amy gave an update that the bill for LaPie has passed through committee. And so it is also working through the legislative session this time. That's what information I had from the meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Tarver. Do we have any council members with questions in regard to the Education and Employment Committee report? Ms. Heimel, I see your hand, you recognize. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, what I want to find out about the cameras in centers and that is because here I am way back up and running at Magnolia, and I am noticing some cameras are missing in the classrooms and that. So I am very concerned about that. Does that considered all schools, or is it in a certain schools are we discussing? Because I'm noticing over here at Magnolia.
Yeah, I think it just covers the I want to say like pre-K through the 21, like in a public schools. So I don't think that it would be for anything outside of a public school setting at this point. And the legislation hasn't passed all the way through to make that happen yet. So it's not in effect yet completely.
And also I want to find out too, is because when would it be in effect? If
it depends on the legislator as they go through this session. But I don't think that it's going to have, I think it's just public schools, that its requirements are applicable to public schools and to public school officers and employees. So it's just special education classrooms in public schools at this point.
All right, because here I am representing I am representing Magnolia School because, I am concerned about that. I don't know if we was added. That's why I'm doing this.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Heimel. Ms. Haino, your hand is raised. You recognize you have the floor. You're still muted.
Okay. Am I understanding correctly? So for F1, this is a point of order. This is in on subject, but I know that we are not we as the council are not including customized employment in our plan for FY 23. So have I been hearing that L8 is gonna be or has been contracted? Isn't there a customized employment contract with LRS now? Or
No,
now
yes.
what?
I'm sorry, this was this is the action plan from 2022. So it's been going on since October of 2021 through September of 2022. So it's an activity that's already been ongoing with customized employment training. So it's
But
not anything new.
no, that's not my question.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, Miss Mary.
It's okay.
So LRS has a customized employment training activity as well, correct?
They do customized employment. This is training to get more people certified to help LRS throughout the state. And they were
Okay.
working on trying to get more people certified in customized employment training, but it is a very long process, and COVID and the lack of people to be mentors has slowed the project down. So I think at where we are now, there will only be probably 2 people that are going to be certified for customized employment training. And then the rest of the training will go for the gateway training, which more people were able to do. It didn't require as much as a time commitment, but that they still were getting a certification and helping to understand the different aspects of what you would need to help somebody get a job through the Louisiana Rehabilitation Services. That's my understanding. I'm sure Kelly or Melissa Bayham have a lot. I know they have lots more information about that, but that's my take on it.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Tarver. Thank you, Ms. Hayno. Mr. Davis.
Thank you.
I see your hand. You're recognized by the chair. You have the floor.
Thanks, Chairman Rashad. And my question is for Chairwoman Tarver. So would that would that mean training more people to become RED certified? REDS, REDS certified?
Mary, do you want me to make that clarification?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Recognize Ms. Bayham. You have the
I'm
floor.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
Actually, a REDS is a Rehabilitation Employment Development Specialist, and those are actual staff of LRS. So those are individuals that we hire. We have one in each region. The contract is that doesn't have anything to do with the REDS. That had to do with the customized employment training.
Okay, but the customized employment training is like OJT, correct?
Not exactly. On the job training is where we will basically pay an employer to train an individual on the job. Customized employment is a lot more labor intensive than that. It's where
How so?
mhm. It's where the actual vendor is going to have to learn the unique needs of a particular individual. And then they have to contact employers. And it's almost like job carving, where, you know, a particular individual, because of their unique needs, may not be able to do a job as the job description is written. And so they work with the employer to essentially create a position that's needed within an organization or with a business, but may need to be customized, for lack of a better word, in order for that individual to be able to work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, in a roundabout way, but
So in OJT, the individual with the disability would be able to perform the essential functions of the job as is written in a job description. Whereas with customized employment, the vendor actually has to work with the employer because there may need to be some modifications to the essential functions of that particular position.
okay, but to establish an OJT, sorry, to establish an OJT, LRS requires you to select a vendor or and then they will go out and find a job no matter if you already have a job lined up. So customized employment leads to OJT. Is that correct in a roundabout way, sense of terms?
OJT and customized employment are two different, they're two different things. OJT is where we pay an employer 1.5 times the person's salary to provide the training on the job. And in customized employment, there's a lot more activity on the side of the vendor, whether it be job coaching, identifying supports, identifying different job tasks that the individual can do. On the job training, it's basically the employer that's going to provide the training. And in customized employment, the vendor has a more active role in working with that particular individual. On the job training, you don't even have to have a vendor, a community rehab provider. You could, our REDs, our rehabilitation employment development specialists, sometimes are the ones that actually identify the OJTs.
So you can already have a job lined up and go to the REDS person and be like, hey, I want to work here.
I mean, you can. I mean, the RED's job is to find you a job, but so it would just depend on what you need from that employee. You know, once you get that position, I don't know. It depends on your needs and what you need as far as what service would be provided after that.
Okay. So a customized employment vendor is someone like Goodwill or Atticus LLC, correct?
Correct. It's a community rehabilitation program. Yes.
Okay, then that ties in directly with OJT.
No,
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I have been down this road before, and that's how it works. I don't know if that's how it's supposed to go down, but I just wanted to let you know that that is how it works in Shreveport. And I'd let Dr. Ken York know about that and handle that situation accordingly. And I yield my time back. Thank you, Chairman and Chairwoman, and I'll yield back my time now. Bye.
All right. Do we have any other questions in regard to the report that's been presented in regards to Education and Inclusion Committee?
Could I ask Ms. Bayham to give me a call offline whenever this is concluded?
Yes, sir. She acknowledged she'll give you a call after offline in regards to your concerns.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Bye.
So this report requires no action. So it will be placed on file. Place. What's next? Next report is going to be presented by Ms. Kim Bazile for self-determination and inclusion.
Good morning, everyone. The Self-Determination and Community Inclusion Committee met yesterday and does not have any recommendations to present to the council. We did receive a lot of great updates from the Office of Citizens with Developmental Disabilities and Medicaid. A lot of the information shared is included in their agency reports, and I'm sure they will touch on these topics later today. Julie did share some of OCDD's fiscal year 23 major initiatives, including but not limited to continuing work around COVID flexibilities being permanent in waivers, including updating waiver manuals and training for workers and participants, working on electronic plan of care and the tiered waiver assessment tool to prep for eventual migration to a consolidated waiver, researching what other states are doing and technology used for remote supports, value-based payments to help incentivize person-centered planning and thinking which will require waiver amendments, shared living model, which is where multiple waiver participants may be able to share support staff because they may not need one-on-one assistance, continued prep for the home and community-based settings rule, which must be implemented by April of 2023, training for dental practitioners on the needs of individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, training for direct support workers. Julie also discussed some of the legislation that is being debated at the Capitol, which, if passed, would utilize quite a bit of the department's time researching and developing reports for the legislature. We also received an update on the implementation of Act 421 Children's Medicaid Option, or TEFRA. CMS approval was received and TEFRA went live January 1. To date, there have been 510 applicants, 94 of which have been approved. 393 applicants are still being reviewed, 16 denied, and 4 applications were withdrawn. Also, a workflow was released by the department to assist with understanding the application process. This workflow was attached to our committee agenda if you'd like to review. Finally, we discussed some of our contractual activities and goals 1 and 2 of the council's fiscal year 22 action plan. I encourage you all to review the status update document that we receive quarterly for specific updates on each activity and any of the documents linked in our committee agenda. And that is all.
Thank you, Ms. Bazille. Do we have any questions in regards to the self-determination community inclusion committee report that was just presented? Ms. Hayno, you recognize you have the floor.
Sorry, my computer is I don't know. When did you say the date to comply with the home and community-based settings rule was?
April of 2023.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Hayno. Do we have any other questions in regards to the report that was presented by Ms. Bazille for the self-determination and committee inclusion report?
What? Sorry, Bob.
Not seeing any hands, this report requires no action and will be placed on file. We're really ahead of schedule. We're supposed to take a lunch, but if there's no objection, I'd like to proceed to standing committee report. So the first report will be by the LHC Human Development Center. Dr. Phil Wilson has a representative in that report, so we yield the floor to you for your report.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jolie Robichaud. I do outreach marketing for the Human Development Center. I think as Phil likes to say, we have our quarterly report here, but rather than read it, we'd like to show you some of the things we do at the HDC. Specifically now we're recruiting for 2 of our interdisciplinary training programs. First, we have LEND, which you guys may be aware of. It's a leadership education in neurodevelopmental disabilities. We also have a second one called the Interprofessional Preparation Program for Related Services Personnel, which prepares graduate students in special education and allied health or related services. It prepares them for these skills and practices within school environments where they'll eventually work. So we're talking about like OTs and speech language pathologists within the classrooms or school system. So they are now recruiting for their third cohort. So we've collected a bunch of interviews from previous scholars and faculty and got some of their feedback on how the program has helped them and what they think about it. So we have the first video. I think it's all about what it's like learning in community-based settings rather than in clinical or didactic seminars.
Am I the only one who can't hear it?
I can't hear nothing.
You ran out of attention. Give us just 1 minute. Technical difficulties.
10-4.
Hello, everyone. Never mind.
Try again.
Yeah, so if anyone has questions about the report, just let me know and I could get answers from Dr. Wilson. And then if you have any general questions about what you're about to see or what you've heard so far, just let me know as well.
So while they're working out the bugs, does anybody have any questions for Ms. Robichaux for the presentation she just presented until we're able to look at the video? Follows up what she was discussing.
Yes. Can you explain what LEND is? LEND is again?
Sure. So LEND is the Leadership Education on Neurodevelopmental Disabilities. It's a program from the AUCD, or the Association of University of Centers on Disabilities. So LEND takes graduate students, practicing professionals, self-advocates, and family members, and brings them together for an interdisciplinary training on leadership, advocacy. They also have like a family mentoring experience where they get real hands-on experience or learn from lived experiences of people who've actually had these experiences of disability. That's it in a nutshell. Do you have any other direct questions about it that I can answer?
Any other questions from Ms. Robichaux? All right, are we ready for the presentation? All right, we're gonna keep our fingers crossed. If you hear any audio, please let us know because we're gonna mute out on our end. Okay, no problem.
Can't hear it.
I can't either. And I don't have my hearing aids in either.
I can't hear it either.
Can you send the URL out to everybody? Would that be easier?
Awesome.
I
We
agree.
apologize, the wonderful world of technology. So
You can test it during lunch and play it afterward.
you can cut it off.
She's trying, she's like glitching.
Yeah.
Wow, that's very glitchy.
Nothing to worry about. Technology, but like some people I know sometimes just won't do right. So with that being said, we have the report that has been, then it requires no action from Ms. Robichaud from the council, so this report will be placed on file. The next report that we have Officer for Citizens with Developmental Disabilities, Mr. Bernard Brown. You present?
He's on.
He's
Good
online.
morning, how's it going?
Hi, Bernard.
Hey, all right, so I'll just touch on a few things. Kim kind of touched on a lot of what we were going to discuss today, but just to kind of cover some other things. Specific to the PHE changes, as you guys may know, for the now and for the Children's Choice Waiver, those amendments were approved by CMS on March 25th. As far as next steps, there's nothing, that's going to change from your end for the providers and things like that, because those things are currently in place with the Appendix K amendments, which is still active because we're still under the current PHE. But once the PHE goes away, those three things that we identified that we wanted to continue will continue hopefully without a blip. And I say hopefully. Another thing to note for the row, that waiver, those waiver amendments are still with CMS and it hasn't been approved. Specifically, it's the dental service that we're adding to the row that we're waiting on approval for from CMS. One other thing to add, we do have some additional amendments that need to go out for the now, I believe. But because so those are already in place, but we had some additional amendments we needed to send out, but we couldn't send those out because we were still waiting for the initial approval from the first now submission. So once we get that done, we'll add those other amendments to that waiver and then we'll send that out. As far as the ARPA plan, the following activities have been approved by CMS. The START model, which is the Systemic Therapeutic Assessment Resource and Treatment Model, has been approved. We're actually underway with developing the contract with the START team so we can get that submitted and implemented so we can begin the assessment piece of that. The infrastructure stand-up for the Technology First initiative, which is the remote supports piece, that was approved as well. We're currently doing research on that. The VBP model was approved for the ARPA plan, and we're also researching that. And we're going to be reaching out to stakeholders soon to assist with the fine tuning of that model. And then the community practitioners training was also approved. We met with the dental task force, took some feedback from them, and we're collaborating with the Louisiana Dental Association on developing or incorporating some of those trainings into their continuing education program. What else we got here? I think that's all the major updates that I have. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to take those.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brown. Do we have any questions in regard to the report that was presented from the Office for Citizens with Developmental Disabilities? Mr. Davis, I see your hand. You're recognized by the chair. You got the floor.
Oh, I forgot to lower my hand after my last question. My bad.
No problem. Do we have any questions in regards to the report that was presented? If there are no questions from council members on the report that was presented, this report requires no action and we placed on file. The next business item up for the report is from the Office of Public Health. Do you have a representative? State your name, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Teresa Northington. I'm here representing Dr. Patty Baravecchio, who could not be here today. She did give me a couple things to share with y'all. But of course, the complete report is available on the council website if you have any other things that you wanted to know about or ask about. The first, let's see here. The first update, some things are strictly informational, is Children's Special Health Care Services continues to provide direct care clinics in all regions except for 1 and 7. And they're trying to specifically meet needs in provider shortage areas. The complete information on that is also available on the website. One of the bigger updates is from the FRC, the Family Resource Center, and it's offering resources and referral services for families and health providers statewide. They are also available to provide community referrals and resources via phone and email now. They are currently piloting an outreach program for families and children identified through the Louisiana Birth Defect Surveillance System, and to ensure that these children and families are linked to the needed resources. And an analysis of the pilot will be conducted in July, so it's kind of ongoing until July 2022, when the Bureau of Family Health epidemiologists will conduct the report. Let's see, next there is a couple things from the Children and Youth with Special Health Care Needs Initiative, as well as helping with families helping families. Both are working together to coordinate resources and referral networks across the state. There are some upcoming events that they have on the books. In Region 8, Families Helping Families on April 27th is going to be conducting a workshop. The title is Best Practices for Early Childhood Screening, Addressing Cultural and Language Gaps. The next one will be for Region 10, May 12th. And it's called Building Blocks for a Brighter Future, 0 to 5 years old, ensuring optimal health outcomes through evidence-based intervention. May 17th will be Region 5, Early Childhood Developmental Health, Evidence-Based Practices to ensure optimal developmental outcomes. Next little update is from the CSHS Transportation Assistance Program. And they are currently providing transportation assistance for families and who need to attend medical appointments but may not have the means to do so. Of course, they would first have to seek assistance from their MCO, and then if that's not being provided, they can go to the CSHS Transportation Program. Currently, they have issued 7 stipends, I believe, and some are also being looked at right now to date. Next, as I'm here, the Louisiana Early Childhood Risk and Reach Report from 2021 is available if you haven't seen it yet. It has lots of good information in it describing the 5 categories of health challenges facing Louisiana kids and families. The report can also be found on the DD Council report, and there's a hyperlink in there if you wanted to take a look at it. The LCD, Louisiana Commission for the Deaf, functions as the principal state program, and they have a couple of strategic priority updates, particularly priority 5, which is the interpreter service program. They are working with the NAV strategies to create a plan of action to develop a sign language interpretation framework to establish oversight in regulatory policies and procedures based on statewide data. This work it began last month, and it's going to be going until November 2022. The next priority update is for priority 6, which is support service provider program. And the LCD released a request for proposal for the support service provider program. They are kind of working on it right now, haven't quite awarded anything yet. They're waiting for approval from the state to complete the process, but they're in the process of doing that right now. And the last one is me, actually. I'm the new developmental screening coordinator for the state, and I work with the AAP and different agencies around the state to train and to educate providers, early care and education centers on best practices for developmental screening. And that would be all.
All right, thank you, Dr. Northern. Do we have any council members with any questions in regards to the report that was presented by the Office of Public Health? Ms. Hano, I see your hand. You're recognized by the chair. You have the floor.
It's just a clarification question, but what is you said for the transportation, they must have seek assistance through their MCO. What is MCO Medicaid office or what is MCO, please?
Sure, that's pretty much their insurance provider. So if they need to go to an appointment, they would have to contact, it could be Medicaid or whoever their insurance provider is first to see if they will cover it. And if they won't, then they can come to them, to the Transportation Assistance Program.
Sure.
Satisfied the question, Ms. Hano?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions for the report that's been presented by Dr. Northington for the Office of Public Health? Not seeing any questions online or in the room. This report requires no action and will be placed on file. The next report we have is for the Office of Aging and Adult Services. We don't have a representative present, so the report itself is online for those who'd like to review it. And we'll proceed forward with the Department of Education. So the floor.
Before we go on from the Office of Aging, is there a reason why there's not a representative? Do we have somebody on the council that's been appointed?
No, we don't have an appointed representative from OAS.
Are we just waiting for them to give a name? Okay, I mean, because I just think this is really important to the DD community, even though like it might not be necessarily people with developmental disabilities served. We look at the entire family. And so the impact of these services that the family can get helps keep the family together. So like, I just think that's important to get somebody appointed and get a report so we can ask questions about it. So
I'll continue to push.
Thank you, Ms. Fowler. And for those that was online, the executive director is going to continue to try to move forward for someone to be able to be a representative. So that way we can make sure we have well-rounded reports with information that impact all our families and households. The next report we have is from the report of the Department of Education. We have Ms. Meredith Jordan, Chair Youth, Ms. Jordan, her report.
Excellent. Thank you all. And we had a great in-depth discussion yesterday at committee, but I will go through again each of the updates on my report linked. So the first one is around our guidance for leading inclusive special education programs that really, as I came into this position at the beginning of this school year, began to hear from special ed directors around, we need more guidance, we want more professional development, we want more support. And we have our SPED Fellow Academy, which targets a small group of novice, newly entering the profession or the role around special ed directors. So what we've begun to do is monthly release guidance followed by implementation webinars where we really get to talk about those topics more kind of like a community of practice. We get to talk about their challenges happening in their school system, some of those very unique challenges, complex issues around serving students with disabilities, whether it's following the pandemic, whether it's around natural disasters, what are all of the challenges that they're seeing? And it's great for us at the department to really be able to give our SPED directors that space to communicate with us at the department. What are our challenges? So you'll see here, we've released 3 topics. I've linked to those documents. We've got leveraging data to align budgets and spending to priorities. We started with that one in January because it was really tied into our school system planning process and where they were at as they began to plan for the 22-23 school year. And so we started with that topic. Our second topic was around creating compliance systems for student success. And our most recent topic was around staff well-being. How do we make sure that we are taking care of the needs of our educators who we need to be there and be in their best mindset in order to be able to support our students with disabilities. And for that one, we really partnered with our well-being team at the department. You'll see our future topics. Our next topic is going to shift and talk through student well-being. How do we take care of the mental and the wellness needs of our students? And even specifically, our students with disabilities who have more complex challenges. And post-pandemic, we know they were impacted in larger ways than students without disabilities in some ways. And so what happens is we release a set of guidance materials. We really are targeting school system leaders, school superintendents to build awareness, as well as our special ed directors. And so what we instruct them to do is review those documents together. They usually begin with a self-assessment. Where are we at around this topic? How visible are we with supporting the well-being of students with disabilities in our district? And then it goes into some best practice topic guidance around how they can address those. And then we follow that and we ask those folks from those districts to get on our implementation webinar together. We work with a group of advisors in the field, special ed leaders from our charter schools, our LEAs, to kind of help us as we guide. So for example, one piece of feedback that we received, we really had staff and student well-being initially together, but what we found and what we heard from them and their feedback was that's such a large need right now. Before we even talk about academics and challenges, just, coming off of another very active hurricane season, and then our recent storms and tornadoes that significantly damaged some of our schools in St. Bernard Parish. And so what we realized was, in listening to our advisors, okay, let's step back, let's talk about staff well-being, and then we'll shift to student well-being. And so we're very excited about this. We've gotten a lot of really great feedback around this guidance. We've shared it with the U.S. Department of Ed and actually gotten some feedback saying, wow, we're really excited that the way that you're going and beginning to really put in writing some really clear, really concrete guidance for school systems around some topics that are responsive to their needs. So this is something that we were excited to expand this year and offer some support for our special education and school system leaders. The next update on my report, I know at the last meeting, we began talking about our IDA budget application process for our state set-aside funds and how that process would look. We spent some time talking about that. I wanted to come back with an update that we are now in our public comment part of that process. And I want to say really, thanks to our Families Helping Family Centers, our Parent Training Information Center. In the beginning of our process, we did an input survey to receive initial input on what should those budget activities look like, are our state priorities aligned, and we received over 500 responses. So we got a huge input there. We also brought that application to our special education advisory panel. And so we're now in the public comment process. It will close the end of this week. It's been open for quite some time. So I wanted to
ask you all, please feel free to share. I will, in total transparency, we have not received a lot of public comment. I don't know if that's because we did a good job and got a lot of public input on the front end. But please feel free to share those links that are here in the report. I'll also say that to date, the final allocations that each state will receive has not yet been released. So our draft application is based on last year's allocation, which for state set aside was around 22 million. So our draft application is based on last year's allocation. As soon as we get this year's allocation, we can go in, update that to reflect that increase, which I'm hopeful for based on some communication around USDE and around increasing funding for special education and moving towards a plan to fully fund special education. I'm hopeful. Even in our early childcare centers, we've heard that even for our youngest children with disabilities, that there will be hopefully some increased funding for the from the U.S. Department of Ed. So I just wanted to provide that update, ask you all, feel free to share that public comment survey there. Or of course, if you all have any comment, please feel free to get that in by the end of the week. The next update on my report is around our SPED Fellow Academy. I know I try to keep you all updated on this activity throughout the year. We are now in our process where we are closing out cohort 2 of our academy, which is a year-long comprehensive program for novice special education leaders. They attend both in person and a few virtual sessions throughout the year, following a very in-depth scope of learning around really developing them as special education leaders and hopefully addressing our retention issues. And as we support these special education leaders, encouraging them to commit and to stick to these positions. They're valuable, we need them. And so this year, in order to sort of improve that leadership pipeline for special education, one of the decisions that we have made is to, number one, expand our cohort by at least 5 applicants. And I will explain, we talked a lot in committee yesterday. The challenge, I want to reach all of them. It's so very hard when we receive applications to tell folks, no, you can't be in, we've reached our limit. I would like to get up to 40 participants in our program. The challenge is finding mentors who have that expertise in our school systems to partnership alongside our fellows, because we feel like that's a real key piece in our development program. But we are expanding this year. Part of that expansion is going to also, in hopes of helping to approve this pipeline again, I'm also going to open it up to what we're calling aspiring special education leaders. So in a lot of our school systems, we may have special education directors, especially in our larger systems, who are overseeing pupil appraisal staff, and then they're overseeing also their special education staff. They may have IEP facilitators, and sometimes they have what's called special education supervisors. So I'm not at that director level yet, but we are going to reach down and try to grab those people and really get them pumped up about that director role, so that in hopes that again, they commit and they feel prepared and ready to move into a directorship down the road. Those individuals, what we are requiring is a letter of recommendation from their direct supervisor, so from their current special education director, saying that they have the skills, they have the dedication, they have the commitment, so that once they join our program and we spend a year-long comprehensive program walking them through executive learning projects, how do I identify system level issues and create system level change in our school systems, that then they stay in those roles. That's the goal. So our applications are open. We've done some informationals. We'll continue to reach out. We already have close upwards to 10 applicants already. So, I'm hopeful it's a very popular program, and we hope to continue to expand that program. That's it. That's it.
That comes up. Just
It says-
click on it and that's it. It says thank you.
That's interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll look at it.
Okay.
We've gotten 10 applicants, so I'll see there may be a glitch or something happening with the app. So the next update I have is around seat vacancies. Again, this is one of those items that I'll ask everyone, please get the word out, please share. You'll see us begin to do some comms around our vacancies on our seat panel, which is our state education advisory panel. They serve 3-year terms. And we rotate off approximately a third of that membership at the end of each year. So the link to that application there is live. Please ignore, there's only one where we talk about all the roles. There's one highlighted, but we have multiple roles open. I'll go through those now. I'm in the process of getting that application updated where it highlights all of the current roles that are rotating off. So our charter school rep position, her term is ending. We have a related service provider opening. We have 4 parents, as you all know, our parents make up the majority of that panel. So those are important for us. Those are the most seats that we're going to have open. So we have 4 parents, a child welfare, a foster care individual representative, our rep of voc rehab community or a business providing transition services. That position is also opening up. And so our vacancies, like I said, we'll start to do some comms and advertise those. And then my 2 chairs of this council, of this panel, will begin interviewing in May. And hopefully we will have appointments for June. So again, please feel free to share that information out. And our last update that I wanted to share, each year we survey parents of children with disabilities who receive SPED services. This is both a federal requirement for us. It is something that is part of our federal reporting. And so the purpose of that survey is to get feedback on how well school systems are communicating with parents, how well they are involving them in the processes of servicing their children. And so we use that information to kind of guide our efforts and hopefully improve services and results within our school systems. And so that our current parent involvement survey is now available. I have the link here. Per federal regs, we have to use a sampling method that gives us a demographic representative of our children with disabilities across our state. This year, what I have also decided to do, so when you go to that link, it's going to list you the school systems that give us that demographic makeup that we have to report for the federal government. However, this year, I'd like to leave, it's open, so any parent can complete the survey. I'm one of those that feels like the more input, the more voices we hear around parents, the better informed we are as a department and the better we can make decisions around how to best support our school systems as well with engaging parents. So that survey is completely open. We can disaggregate it the way that we need in order to pull out the sampling that we need to go to the federal government. But again, wanted to just let everyone know here that one change we're making is that it will be open for all parents so that we can hear from everyone this year. And that concludes my report. I'll entertain any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Ms. Jordan, for your report. You have hands raised. Ms. Hayno, I see your hand. You're recognized by the chair. You have the floor.
It's not in relation to this, so I'll move on.
Okay, thank you for letting us know that. The chair recognizes you have the floor.
Yes, now mine is like with families, helping families. Is that like what, I know what, families helping families do in that, Well, I'm talking about with parents with, the children with the disability, do they have like, with the school board and do they ever, get the help that they really need with the school board? And how many could it be for their children alone with the disability?
Their supports are expansive and vary by need based on the school systems. I know several of these individuals are in here that we partner with. But we do have school systems. We have special education directors who reach out to families, helping family centers for supports, for information. We recommend as a department, when I have parents who contact me and they're looking for specific resources, especially if they're in rural communities and they don't know where to go, their local families, helping family centers are a vital part of providing them with the information they need and the resources that they need. So we will refer them to their families, helping family centers. They can probably speak to the volumes that they get. I also know their webinars, their trainings that they do are extremely popular with both our parents as well as our school systems. Like I said, our school systems are reaching out to them for support. I also know that, and we recommend this, that local special education advisory councils, that they could also reach out to their families, helping family centers and bring them in as a partner. That's a place where our local special ed advisory councils as well are made up of and should have many parents involved on those councils as well. And so they could bring those families, helping family centers in there. I know some of them that do for presentations, for information, and it's a way for them to also provide them as partners and give them those contacts as well. So that's a great question. The services are vary and could really address whatever that need is when the parent or the school system reaches out to families, helping families.
And also, do they have to pay like for schools or dues, or the school system have to, I know they have to have with pay rates that they have, do they have to really pay it?
The systems and parents do not have to pay families, helping families. Those services are there for them.
No, I mean with the school, with the school's tuition. I mean, the parents alone.
Do parents have to pay the school tuition? Is that the question?
Yes, it is. Who pays it? Families helping families, or the parents have to pay the tuition?
Families helping families doesn't pay any tuition. Parents are only paying tuition for their children to attend school if they're going maybe to a private school. There may be some tuition involved for private school attendance.
Scholarship.
That's what I was asking.
All right. Was your question satisfied, Ms. Hyman?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hyman. Vice Chair Banks, I see your hand. You're recognized by the chair. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I'm asking about I see the the vacancies that you guys have. Is that like to sit up on, that's your panel member, but I remember yesterday you were telling us about other positions you guys had open. Is that the same thing or is it something different?
That's something different. So yesterday I also gave the committee just an update on my team at the department, our diverse learners and our SPED team, and the positions that I have and those vacancies. I did find out for you, Ms. Nicole, that mild moderate position that we talked about did close. but I will make sure I forward you any additional positions that we have open. Or if we have to repost that one, I will definitely share it with you.
Yeah, I just wanted to know the information because they asked me yesterday. I said, "Oh, they didn't tell me what exact position it was to apply for, so I'm not sure." So that's why I was getting more information about the exact position. Because if you go on the civil service website and type in,
Yes,
it's just too many.
it's a
Too
lot.
many.
Look for, so they are educational program consultant positions. And then you really have to look and take a look at them, Ms. Banks, to see, what is the focus. So just to kind of give everyone that overview, that update of my team, because I know it's changed, thankfully, and we are growing. Since I first started, you all know, total transparency, there were lots of vacancies on my team. And so when we are fully staffed, I will have total 11 team members, including myself. But part of that initial process was throughout the fall, getting civil service approval for a team structure. So many of you know, if you're in state employment, it's a process. So we currently have 7 employees, including myself. I have 4 vacancies, but like Ms. Nicole is referencing, I've got a couple of those that have closed and we're in the process of filling. One of those is going to be, it's an ed program consultant, but the experience that I'm looking for is that pupil appraisal experience. That's a school psychologist or an ed diagnostician, really having that area on my team. I have another ed program consultant position that I am looking for, and this one is closed. I'm looking for a mild moderate experience. And the other ed program consultant is, I'm looking for an individual with more experience with serving students with significant disabilities. So I have that experience. And then I have one more team member who left for job advancement. She was phenomenal on our team. We were sad to see her go. She was leading our SPED fellow work, which I'm now continuing to advance while we advertise that position. That one should be going up very soon. And that person could be someone who has success leading successful special education programs. But again, that specific title on civil service, Ms. Banks, will still be ed program consultant. And then you've got to go in and kind of look at the description to see what that job focus.
To see which one. Another question, when you said that severe, does it account for severe and profound disabilities?
Yes.
Okay, because I just wanted to make sure that was clear because they have experience in both of those too. So I was just asking.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, I yield the floor. That was all my questions.
Thank you. Are there any more questions in regards to the report that was presented by Ms. Jordan for the Department of Education? Dr. Michelle, you're recognized by the chair. You have the floor.
I'm Charlie Michelle, again, Executive Director, Bioland Families, Helping Families. Wanted to tell you how wonderful it is to see that y'all are doing the guidance for leading inclusive education. We have been asking for that for years. I'm a part of a different we. I was a special ed director before, and that was never forthcoming. My hope, and when you tie it into all 3 of these areas, which are great, my hope is that there's an ancillary activity that's going on with Kay talking to the superintendents. Because one of the biggest stressors of a special ed director, it's not achievement for students, it's fighting the superintendent over the appropriate use of the funds that are available to the school system for those students. And in the previous administration, there were some several questionable methods of funding that were modeled and embraced by superintendents. So the old superintendents, the old guard, are still embracing that because it's hard to get them to change their behaviors. So special ed directors that don't have the wherewithal to fight that are in a bind. Then you have new superintendents coming in that don't know it's wrong because it's always been that way. So I'm hoping that that's part of it because that will do the most for staff well-being when they can do their jobs and not have to worry about losing them for doing it.
Right. I'm so glad you said that too, Charlie. You know, one of the things that I've heard in working with SPED directors and in our SPED Fellow Academy, they'll say too, school superintendents and also, God, my principals, my school building level leaders need this information as well. So I'm trying to figure out too, how I partner with our Superintendent's Academy. And we've started a Principals Academy or a Principals Fellowship, but how do we partner with those development activities, educator development activities, to also embed this content and knowledge as well?
And for the record, since it's being recorded, my superintendent never did that. She really did. She was awesome, but I was one of the few fortunate ones.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Michelle.
Thank you.
Do we have any more questions? Ms. Hayner, I see your hand. Do you have any more questions for Ms. Jordan regarding to the report that she just presented? Or is your hand just
I
still up?
do. I wrote in my note that that I wanted later to look up the makeup of the seat panel. And I know in legislation, in our bills and laws, we have the breakdown of the makeup of certain panels. Where can I find the breakdown of the makeup for sleep, just for my personal well-being, for my personal reference?
Jill, I'm happy to send you our breakdown. You can also find it if you go to the department's website, Louisiana Believes, and you type in the search SEEP. It's the most horrible way to try to find information, but you can find it. But as long as someone can share with me your email, Jill, if I could email you our breakdown, I'm happy to do that.
Of course.
Okay.
I can. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hayno. We'll make sure that your email address is passed on to Ms. Jordan. Do we have any questions, any more questions from council members in regard to the report that's been presented by the Department of Education?
Rashad, there's a question in the chat from Ms. Kosei. She asked, is the SEEP summer meeting open to public or retreat?
Good question. We will have at least one agenda item. So it will be open to the public and then we'll break to retreat. Good question, Ms. Brenda.
Okay.
Oh.
Hope your question was satisfied, Ms. Kosei. Do we have any other questions in the chat? I'm sorry.
No, that was all.
Okay. Well, not seeing any more questions in regards to the report that's presented. Jill, I see your hand up. Is that intentional or just an oversight?
I was literally lowering her.
Okay, no problem. Didn't want to overlook you. So the report from the Department of Education requires no action, so it'll be placed on file. The next item up for business is the report of the Governor's Office of Elderly Affairs. The chair recognizes Ms. Sherry Crane for the report. Ms. Crane, you have the floor.
Thank you. Unfortunately, our report was late. We had some technical difficulties in gathering some of our information. But I think Amy and them have it now. So I'm just going to touch bases on our updates. Since the public health pandemic, our councils have been closed. So they're just now getting back to opening up. They didn't stop providing the meals and the services. However, it was a little challenging on providing those services, whether that individual didn't want anybody in their home or they didn't want to come to the council when it was open. So some of those services, the units, went down, but they still provided those services as much as possible. Our ombudsman program has an opportunity where they are getting funds to enhance the volunteer program throughout the state to help advocate on behalf of the residents of those long-term care facilities. So now, since the pandemic has, the emergency has been lifted, they are now going back into those facilities and able to talk to them one-on-one as to where they were just teleconferencing residents to advocate for them. So that is a grant that is going to be coming to help do that, where we will contract out to media campaigns to start that campaign to start drawing in some more volunteers. Our elderly protective services, we have currently opened since July 1st, 3,777 cases. Of those cases, 328 are classified as high priority. 2,305 cases were classified as medium priority. So as the pandemic was going through, any high priority case were not necessarily being seen unless it was severe, then our investigators would go out. Otherwise, they would either call law enforcement to help assess that need and then handle it from that point. The medium cases were basically handled as much as possible through teleconferencing or just simple phone calls once the reports came in to investigate those as much as possible. Our ADRC program, we have a grant that is pending approval right now to help enhance the public health workforce when it comes to our resource centers and getting information out to the general public for any assistance referral that they require. It's going to be in the amount of $115,000, maybe a little bit more, depending on how many states actually apply for that grant. So we're hoping to hear within a couple of weeks that award to see if we have gotten that grant award. Our MIPA program, which is our Medicare program, to help with the low income subsidy as well and your Medicare savings plan. We have the FY20 grant was extended by 12 months just due to the pandemic and not being able to assist with open enrollment face-to-face. That was extended. So then the FY21 grant started in October 2021. So we have two grants running concurrently. We have one that ends in April, the end of this month, and then that's the FY20. We have the 21 that ends June 30th, and the new grant for FY22 just opened yesterday. So those are three grants going on at pretty much the same time for me. The next update really is that we have implemented a new phone automated system, and I kind of mentioned that our last quarter. So if you know of anybody that has used that new phone system, we are looking for feedback to see how we can enhance it, or if it has worked, if there's some things that we can improve or some things that, you've come across that would be an issue. We would like to know, so you can just email us at elderlyaffairs@la.gov and give us that feedback. We would appreciate that to see how we can streamline some of those phone calls, whether they come to us at the state office or if they need to be distributed out to those individual councils or to our resource centers. And that's pretty much it for our updates.
All right, thank you, Ms. Crane. Do we have any questions from council members in regards to the report that's been presented? Mr. Davis?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, the floor.
I'm sorry. Sorry, Mr. Chairman, but thank you for recognizing me. Who was the speaker again that just spoke?
That was Miss Sherry Crane with the Office of Elderly Affairs.
Thank you, Chair. Miss Crane, can you repeat what the Omnibuds program was? I don't
Yes.
think I'm saying that right.
That's okay. It's ombudsman. It's fine. I know what you meant. So basically what our ombudsmen do is it's a federal and state funded program where we're mandated to advocate on the behalf of residents in long-term care facilities. So if they have a complaint, example, their food is too salty. Our ombudsman goes in and talks to the resident and gets, their input on what their complaint is. And then they will talk to the facility and see if they can, modify that person's meal intake to where it's not as salty to help resolve that issue.
Excuse me one sec.
Sure.
Okay, yeah. So what is the status of your ombudsman program? What's the status of it?
So right now, we do have a state ombudsman, and then we have regional ombudsmen that are actually paid through the councils on aging in different regions. But there is a greater need that those regional ombudsmen cannot reach everybody. So we are actually doing a volunteer program where we are going to train them and help mentor with our regional ombudsman to get them up to speed on what they can and cannot do, or what their sheer purpose is to advocate for that resident. And so we have a grant that's going to be coming through to help enhance that program.
Got you. Are there any ombudsman program vacancies?
Not for the paid positions, no.
Okay. Okay, that was my question, and I yield my time back. And thank you so much, Ms. Crane and Chairman. Thank you. All right, I yield back my time. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Mr. Edens, I see your hand. You're recognized by the chair. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could you specify for the members of the council and those listening in the public what the ombudsman specific role is in regards to a person in a facility that is requesting to transition, someone that's not interdicted, someone that maybe has a developmental disability or some other disability that's in a nursing home or other institution that is requesting to transition, and they're not getting the support from the staff or the in-house social worker or other folks there. They're making it known that they would like to transition back in the community, but they're not getting the support. What is the ombudsman's role in that regard, in regards to supporting that person?
So the ombudsman can actually, really advocate for that resident, express their concerns, express their wishes to the facility, as well as to the family members if need be. It kind of transitions from the ombudsman to possibility our home and community-based service unit, who would actually help transition that person into another, either nursing assisted or back to their home for families to take care of them. So it's kind of a two-part unit that works hand in hand in our office. So it's not necessarily just going to be the ombudsman. It depends on what all is entailed in that transition as to what other units in our office would help with that transition.
Right, I understand. I mean, I'm more concerned about what specifically, what the ombudsman, you said the ombudsman would advocate for them. Advocate to who? Advocate to the nursing staff, to the administrator? Who would they be advocating to express this client's concerns about transition?
Yeah. So it could be the facility itself. It could be the director of the facility. It could be family members of the resident. It's basically they're the mediator at the table to say what their wishes are if they're not being heard. And like I said, depending on how severe the wishes of that client, it could also involve another unit in our office besides the ombudsman. So it just depends on the specifics of the situation.
Just want to make
sure.
Well, it does. And I just want to make sure that the ombudsmans take these concerns about these clients that are expressing that they want to desire to transition seriously, because and I'm talking about people that aren't addicted, that people that can leave anytime they want to if they have the means to do so. because quite often I think people are saying out loud and quite frankly that I don't want to be here, but no one's listening, because I hear that all the time. And so I want to make sure that if someone reaches out to an ombudsman, that ombudsman takes that request seriously and takes it to the proper people in the staff, be it the nursing home staff or whomever, to make sure that this client's desire to potentially transition is heard and that the process begins, or at least that their desires are addressed seriously, because I hear that all the time. Nobody's listening to me. I've asked, I've expressed that I don't want to be here. I want to transition, but I'm not getting the support that I need.
Absolutely. And that is part of this new grant that we are waiting on approval for, to help drum up that information to just the general public itself as well, to even know that there is the ombudsman program to help those people that are expressing that concern. A lot of people that I talk to just in the general, in my personal life, does not even know what an ombudsman is or that they even exist.
Well, I have people in the nursing home tell me all the time, I say, have you talked to your ombudsman? Well, who is that? What is that? I mean, they should be introduced to the ombudsman when they're admitted, when they first go into the facility. They should have a clear understanding of who their advocates are there, who the person they can trust, who is a person that they can go to when people are stealing from them, stealing their personal items. You hear that kind of stuff going on in these facilities all the time. So they need to be able to know that the ombudsman is a person that they can actually go to in confidence, and somebody that they can trust that will listen to them and take action for them.
Absolutely agreed. And I can tell you, I'm over the state ombudsman. And so there are many changes that I have made in just the 2 years that I have been there in order to get this out and get it to the general public. Because like I said, in my own personal life, I know that people don't know. So to get that, I wrote that grant. And so I'm, waiting on that response. And we did get a couple questions on the grant proposal. And that's why I'm saying, hopefully within the next 2 weeks, we'll know if we get that grant. And that we've already, started talking to a couple of vendors to get that media out there, how we're going to do it and get that word out. So I appreciate you saying that, because I know it's out there. I know it's an issue and we're addressing it the best we can, as quick as we can.
Okay.
The other issue is that when you were talking about the stealing and all of that, that is another unit in our office. But we work hand in hand very close with all of those. And so if it's an issue where they're not even getting through to the regular regional ombudsman, they can go on the website and either get my name or our state ombudsman person and call us directly. We will address it.
Well, you're talking about people that are institutionalized, that don't have access to computers and internet. Quite often, the only person, like I said, that they can trust, that they feel they might be able to trust, and because listen, they go to the nursing staff all the time. The nursing staff often just brushes this stuff off. They don't want to hear it. They hear it all the time. And so nothing gets done. And I say that from experience, because I've got a client that I'm working with right now that she's constantly expressing to me, people are stealing from me all the time. And when I say something to the nurse or I say something to the administrator, I just get brushed off. A matter of fact, she said that they would quite often just pat her on the arm and say, just calm down, it'll be okay. So they don't take her seriously. And so if she knew that the ombudsman would take her seriously, that's somebody that they can go to that will absolutely she can talk to in confidence, and that they will take her concerns seriously. Because quite often the administration and the staff, they just brush them off. They're overwhelmed by things in there quite often. And so they don't either have the means to address it, or they just hear it all the time and they become desensitized to these issues. But for a person living there, that's their home. Right. They want to know that if I have to live here the rest of my life, that I don't have to worry about people stealing from me and taking my little bit of money that my mother gave me because I only get, $35 a month or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So, these are legitimate concerns for people. And we just want to try to do all that we can to make sure that they're going to have to be there, that they have quality of life while they're there, and that they're happy and they can have some joy while they're there.
Absolutely. And I welcome any calls. So you can call me anytime. And if you have specific facilities or regions, please let me know and we can facilitate that.
Well, I would love to do that. Would you please share your email address with maybe one of the staff there, and they can pass it on to me via email, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that, Mr. Higgins. Very thought provoking.
Thank you.
Very thought provoking.
Mhm.
Ms. Hyman, I see your hand. You're recognized by the chair. You have the floor.
Yes, for me, with ombudsman, how many total that y'all have? Because we have an ombudsman for our group home and that she does a great job for us when we say that if we need something and she hears us and that for whatever it is that we say, she brings it to attention to our queue and that and all, and she do it for us. So how many total ombudsmans who goes out to group homes or out to nursing homes or, you know, whatever places that y'all send them to? And how many are there?
So Rosalind, I will have to get you that breakdown as to how many, because we do have some that are paid and we do have some that are volunteer. And then we do have them broken down by region, and sometimes the region is broken down even further depending on the need. So I will definitely get that information to you.
Please, I would appreciate it. Because, I mean, how much do they ever get paid on that kind of help that they do get?
So it really depends, because what happens is the Office of Elderly Affairs contracts out to the Councils on Aging, and the Councils on Aging pay the ombudsman. And so it's kind of like a subcontract. So it really deems on the area and the need. We don't have any really control over how much they pay them. And some of them are part-time ombudsmen, so they're not full-time. So they do other job functions for the council as well as the ombudsman.
And
Which
that's
is
really
why
so
we're
sad.
drumming up.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's really the sad part of it. I wish
absolutely.
we could do more for ombudsmans, because some ombudsmans are good
Yes, ma'am.
out of it. I wish we could do more.
Thank you, Ms. Hyman.
Thank you.
Mr. Higgins, I see your hand. Did you have another question? Oversight? Okay, all right. Do we have any questions, comments in the chat box?
Yes, there was one. How to sign up for ombudsman volunteer training? Who can? And waiting on grant or seeking volunteers now to build capacity, and that's from Ms. Brenda Costa.
So Ms. Kosei, you can call our state office and ask for the state ombudsman. The number is 225-342-7100.
Can you put that in the chat for that number?
And I'll repeat the number for you. It's 225-342-7100. Listen for the prompts, and it will, I think, please do not quote me on this, because they've been changing the prompts. So it used to be prompt 3 for your state ombudsman, but just listen for state ombudsman on the prompt and then push the number that it tells you to push. So you can talk to her about the whole program. The volunteer you can do now before the grant comes through. We do that anyway. The grant is really just to enhance that capability to get the word out and get additional volunteers.
One more time on that phone.
No, that's okay. 225-342-7100.
Okay. That number's been placed in the chat. Do we have any more questions in regards to the report that has been presented by Ms. Crane for Office of Elderly Affairs?
Yes, sir, Chairman. It's Logan Davis.
Mr. Davis, you have the floor.
Ms. Crane, you said that there was one state ombudsman one state, and how many regional people?
I would have to get that number for you because we've had vacancies and then we have filled some. But those positions are all through the councils on aging. The only one that is a state civil service position is the actual state ombudsman.
And we can find the vacancies on what website again? I'm sorry for asking irrelevant questions.
No, that's okay. You won't be able to find the vacancies because we do not, it's not civil service positions. It is contracted through the councils on aging. So you would not have that information anywhere. I would have to get that for you. And that's part of the information I will get for Rosalind, and we can distribute it out to the whole council.
Okay, and excuse me. I'm going to put my contact information down below for both you and Ms. Bayham. It's my cell phone number and my email address.
Okay.
All right, thank you for that. Do we have any more questions in regards to the report that's been presented by Ms. Crane? Not seeing any hands. This report requires no action and will be placed on file. At this time, we're going to move to for lunch. So if there's no objection, meeting will recess for lunch. We'll reconvene at 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
Can you mute your side, Chair? Thank you.
Brendan, don't forget to turn the camera off.
Thank you, Jill.